Terrion Arnold is widely considered across the NFL to already be a bust, a player that will not reach their potential, will not reach the value that he was selected with, and is a player that many are already beginning to throw aside. And at the beginning of his rookie year, there may have been a case for that. He was struggling with penalties, struggling with yardage, and really struggled to begin his NFL career in all aspects. But especially towards the end of that rookie season, especially considering the growth that he showed over his rookie year, I think Terrion Arnold is not only in for a big step in year two, but a massive step in the minds of NFL fans for the next decade plus. And today, we're going to take a look at Terrion Arnold, all the way from him being a prospect through his rookie season and what the expectations are for his sophomore campaign. So that being said, let's take a look at him as a prospect. The former first-round pick in 2024, the 24th overall selection from Alabama, had a lot going for him. With a 9.27 RAS score and elite production at the college level, he was looked at as one of, if not the best cornerbacks in the 2024 class. He had the speed, he had the ball skills, he had the toughness, the physicality. He could play press, he could play off, he could play man, he could play zone, and everything about Terrion Arnold screamed future Pro Bowler and All-Pro. He had every tool in his arsenal in order to succeed, and he had a bit of a bumpy ride getting into the NFL. He had a bit of a bumpy ride starting off at Alabama. His freshman year, he played in just a single game, redshirted, and didn't record a single statistic on the year. His second year was a little bit better. He played in more games, played in 11, had an interception, had a few tackles for loss, but really didn't impact the game like he would in his final year. In his final season at Alabama, he absolutely exploded, which made his career look quite strong. His Alabama career finished with 2 starting seasons with 26 games played, 108 total tackles, 8 TFLs, 1 sack, 6 interceptions, 20 passes defended, and a forced fumble. But as I said, most of that production came from the final season of his collegiate career, where in 2023, on top of being named an All-American from the SEC, he played in 14 games for the Crimson Tide with 63 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, a sack, 5 interceptions, 12 passes defended, and a forced fumble. Pro Football Focus graded him out on the season with an 88.4 overall grade, with 471 coverage snaps, 79 targets, 41 receptions, 441 yards, 2 touchdowns allowed, 5 takeaways, and a passer rating allowed of just 50.7. Well above the average for a cornerback and certainly above average for an NFL prospect. Now, getting into his rookie season, Terrion Arnold was quite good. There's a lot of people that'll say, yeah, he struggled with injuries. Yeah, he gave up a lot of yards at the end of the season. Yeah, he did this and that. And a lot of people are already willing to label him a bust despite his fairly promising young career. Now, early in his career, I will absolutely tell you he did struggle. In week 1 versus Cooper Kupp, he was targeted 10 times by Matthew Stafford and the Rams, allowing 8 receptions, 68 yards, and a touchdown that got the Rams back into the game late in the 4th quarter. He followed that up with week 2, where he was a little bit better, was targeted twice, allowed 2 receptions for 31 yards. 100% completion rate isn't very good, of course, but going from allowing 68 yards and a touchdown to just 31 yards is a step in the right direction. The week following that, he was targeted 9 times by the Arizona Cardinals, did commit a pass interference penalty, but only allowed 3 receptions for 47 yards. Again, not great, but going from allowing 100% completion rate to just a 33% completion rate is another positive step in the right direction. And then by far his best game of his early rookie season came in week 4 on Thursday night versus Seattle, where he was targeted 8 times, allowed 3 receptions for just 18 yards while matching up against DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Tyler Lockett. Some of the key performances from his rookie season include that week 4 game where again he allowed 8 targets, 3 receptions for 18 yards. His first game against the Vikings in week 7 to take control of the NFC North, he was targeted just a single time for 5 yards on the day. Week 11 versus the Jaguars, where he had 4 targets, 1 reception for 23 yards allowed. Week 13 versus Chicago, where he was targeted just 6 times for 1 reception and 6 yards. And once again against Minnesota in week 18, where he was targeted 4 times, had 2 passes defended, and did not allow a single reception against either Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison on the night. Some of the best performances that he had came against division rivals, whether it be on the road or at home. And overall, I thought he got progressively better as the season went on. Terrion Arnold's rookie season concluded with a pretty good stat line, right? His rookie season saw him play 16 games, total 60 tackles, 10 passes defended, and a fumble recovery. He was targeted 90 times on the season, which for a rookie cornerback is a lot, considering that teams didn't want to throw at Carlton Davis very often. Terrion Arnold became the go-to player to target in the offense because he was often covering a wide receiver 1 or 2, but of course other teams didn't want to target Carlton Davis. They didn't want to throw it deep against Kirby Joseph, so Terrion Arnold became the de facto player to target on the Detroit Lions defense. He allowed 50 completions for a 55% completion rate, 660 yards through the air, and 4 touchdowns. Unfortunately, was unable to come away with an interception, but was quite close numerous times and came away with a number of big stops, including a 4th down stop in the end zone in week 18, which doesn't go on the stat sheet as a turnover, but essentially does the same thing. Now, and when we're talking about Terrion Arnold, he's always going to have the comparison to Quinyon Mitchell, a player that went just 2 selections prior to him, who was also looked at as potentially the best player in the class of 2024. These 2 players are always going to have their careers linked. And yet, after 1 season, people are ready to crown Quinyon Mitchell as the next great cornerback in the NFL, and Terrion Arnold the next Detroit Lions bust of a first-round pick. And quite honestly, their rookie seasons weren't that far apart, and the difference between Terrion's season and Quinyon's season really weren't that different. Quinyon Mitchell had a good season as well, playing 16 games for the Philadelphia Eagles with 46 tackles, 12 passes defended, 75 targets for 41 completions, a 54.7% completion rate, as well as allowing 472 yards in coverage and 3 touchdowns. He was targeted quite a bit less than Terrion Arnold was, gave up a few less yards per reception, but overall had very similar statistics when it comes to yards given up, touchdowns allowed, completion percentage, as well as having less tackles and very similar numbers in passes defended. And yet somehow Quinyon Mitchell again is being labeled as the next great Philadelphia cornerback, the next great NFL cornerback, and Terrion Arnold is already being pushed to the wayside as a player that is not going to make it in the NFL. Now, the big reason for that, of course, is penalties, right? That is the big separating factor between why Quinyon Mitchell is looked at as a good cornerback and why Terrion Arnold is looked at as a poor one. And really, it comes down to PR. It comes down to what the public perceives Terrion Arnold to be versus what the reality actually is. Because while Terrion Arnold made the news pretty early in his NFL career for being a penalty magnet, for having 8 penalties through just his first 4 weeks of NFL play, including 3 on Thursday Night Football on primetime television, he really didn't have that poor of a rookie season with penalties after the first month of adjustments. It was bad early. He had 2 penalties in week 1 versus the Los Angeles Rams, had 2 penalties in week 2 versus Tampa Bay, 1 penalty in week 3 versus the Cardinals, and of course, 4 penalties in week 4 versus the Seattle Seahawks. That is where a lot of people stopped watching Terrion. That's where a lot of people saw the news clip. They saw, oh, leads the NFL in penalties, has given up X amount of yards from penalties, has given up X amount of yards through the air, a higher completion percentage than you would expect. And all of a sudden, he was not a good player in the eyes of the fan base, in the eyes of the NFL fans in general. However, after that, Terrion Arnold got significantly better with the penalties allowed. He didn't have another penalty after week 4 until week 9, then had another one in week 10 versus the Houston Texans, which was just a 6-yard defensive holding call, and then didn't have another penalty until week 14, and after that didn't have one from the rest of the season, including that playoff game versus the Washington Commanders. So while he had 8 penalties in the first 4 weeks, he had 3 penalties in the rest of the 13-game season after that. He played very well down the stretch, and even though there was a few stretches here and there from weeks 16 to 18 where Terrion Arnold gave up a lot of yards and was exposed a little bit here and there just due to the lack of, talent around him on the defense as well, and just kind of exposing the scheme a little bit with pick plays. Kyle Shanahan, I know, took advantage of that quite a bit. Matt LaFleur did on that Thursday Night Football game, and I think that the Bears did a good job of that as well when the Lions went to Soldier Field. But outside of that, Terrion Arnold had a lot of standout performances. He had a lot of really good games as a Detroit Lions cornerback, and I see no reason why Terrion can't take that natural second step into his sophomore campaign and prove the NFL that he is a very good cornerback. Was he elite? Absolutely not. Terrion Arnold, I think, as of right now, going into year 2, you can confidently say is a low-tier cornerback 1. I think it'd be hard to find 32 cornerbacks that are better, more suited for NFL play than Terrion Arnold, but he's not going to be in the top 10. He's not going to be in the top 15. Likely won't be in the top 20, But I do think he is a low-end cornerback one at the end of his rookie season. I think he showed the ability to step up and play big-time football in big-time moments versus great wide receivers. He showed the ability to be big and physical and get his hands on the football, even if he didn't come away with an interception. And I also think it's important to note that Terrion Arnold played more press man coverage than any cornerback in football. Not just any rookie cornerback, not just any man cover corner. He played more press coverage, more press man coverage, which is arguably the toughest coverage style to play at the NFL level. He played more of it than any cornerback in football. That is the Detroit Lions style. That is the Detroit Lions scheme that they like to run. It's a lot of man coverage. It's a lot of physicality. It's a lot of punishing themselves at the line of scrimmage and making sure the wide receiver feels them. Terrion Arnold did this more than any cornerback in football. And even though he gave up 600 yards, even though he gave up 4 touchdowns, even though he didn't walk away with an interception, he plays that system to a T. He was phenomenal in several games this past season and had some rookie growing pains 100%. But he is going to be a good cornerback. Cooper Kupp said it. Pretty much every wide receiver he went against gave him credit, saying that kid is going to grow into an all-pro one day. And I fully believe that that is the future for Terrion Arnold. His year 2 growth, I think, is going to be exponential. We're going to see him take that massive year 2 jump. I think the front 7 and the pass rush is going to be better, meaning he doesn't have to cover nearly as long, can be more aggressive and afford some more turnovers, as well as just taking that natural year jump. He has a second training camp. He's going against Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams and Tim Patrick every single day in practice. He is going to grow. He's going to improve. He is going to learn. And if the last 13 games of his NFL season, even from week 4 to the end of the year, are anything to be, reminiscing about or anything to have takeaways from, Terrion Arnold has shown growth in his first year, showed he got better from week 1 to week 18. And I think going into year 2, we're going to see a very special cornerback in Terrion Arnold. The turnovers are going to start to come. And I think we're going to see a year 2 jump, much like we have with some of the other products from Alabama over the last few years. So with that being said, that is life for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below your opinions on year 2 Terrion Arnold. Do you think he's going to take a step up? Do you think he's going to stay kind of as a similar spot to where he is now? And how would you grade his rookie season? Now that we've seen a full 18-game schedule, what did you think about Terrion Arnold? Did you think he was good? Think he was bad? Do you think he'll be a bust in the NFL? Or do you think he'll blossom into a superstar? I'd love to hear you guys' opinions. But with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.